Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. Welcome to World 2023 live from Seoul, South Korea. Today officially kicks off the 13th edition of the most prestigious League of Legends event of the year, as 22 teams are fighting for the Summoners Cup. I'm Quickshot, joined by Gulborg and Raz. It's Worlds, baby!
Let's go!
Let's go. Raz, you excited to get into it?
Yes, exactly. I mean, today is the start of Worlds, so anything that happened before that does not exist. Doesn't matter.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Mm-hmm. And how many seeds do NA has this, and how many does EU have?
We always had 3.
Wow,
Nothing
we're starting
exactly.
salty today. We're starting salty today. Hopefully the spice will continue throughout today's 2 best of 3s. Before we get to any of that action, however, Worlds 2023 features a brand new format. So let's check out what to expect in the upcoming month.
Oh my god, they just obliterate them!
It's time to return to Korea for Worlds. And this year, there's a brand new format. Here's everything you need to know.
They wiped them off the map!
Worlds 2023 will include 22 teams from around the globe facing off in 3 stages: play-ins, Swiss, and knockouts, all culminating at the grand finals to determine the winner of the pinnacle of esports competition.
Damn your church! He is here to win!
Play-ins will kick off the tournament with the first and second seeds from VCS and PCS, the first seed from LLA, CBLOL, and LJL, and the winner of the Worlds qualifying series between the LCS and LEC 4th seeds. These 8 teams will be drawn into 2 best-of-3 double elimination brackets. The top-placing team from each bracket will face off against the second-place team from the other bracket in a final set of best-of-5 matches. The winners of each of these matches will take their place in the Swiss stage. Those 2 teams will join the top 3 seeded teams from LEC and LCS, as well as the top 4 seeded teams from the LCK and LPL. These 16 teams will be drawn into an initial set of 8 best-of-1 matches based on their seeding. Following the first round of play, there will be another draw for the second round to pair teams with the same record against one another. The tournament will repeat this process for 3 more rounds of play, pitting teams with even records against each other until they reach 3 wins to advance or 3 losses to be eliminated from competition. While the initial rounds are best-of-1, all advancement and elimination matches will be best-of-3. In total, 8 teams will move on to knockouts.
Oh!
Okay, let's pause for a moment. That means that every match matters. All the excitement and stakes you can imagine for every battle. In the knockout stage, those 8 teams will make their way through a best-of-5 single elimination bracket, maintaining the high stakes you're used to at Worlds. No second chances, no breathing room, just one shot to win it all, leading to the Worlds 2023 Grand Final at the Gochok Skydome in Seoul to determine the champion on November 19th. You can watch all of the action October 10th through November 19th on lolesports.com. And be sure to log in to collect drops and be eligible for watch rewards in your region.
Thank you so much, Atlas. That was a great breakdown. And I would have said every game counts, but every match matters, works just as well. Brand new format. I'm very, very intrigued to see how the Swiss will play out once we find out who will be joining our already qualified teams from the play-in stage. Let's take a look at the play-ins bracket, because all of the emerging region teams from MSI play-ins are back. What are the expectations? Gulborg, you have not shut up about the returning performances in all the prep. What are you hoping to see in the next couple of days?
Well, I'm really hoping to see a lot of them continue on the trend that they did from MSI. It's not very often we get to see the same teams from the same regions be back again. You will always have your DFM. Loud is kind of getting there as well now. R7's been here for a while, but it's just the fact that we will see the same matchups go up against some of the same teams again. There is possibility of it depending on the outcome of today's bracket too. And the fact that you can just continue the story of not just the region, but the teams and specific players against other players is amazing to me.
Yeah, and I'm interested in the philosophy from the failures from MSI coming into Worlds. Some teams have kept the same rosters as you've mentioned. mentioned, other teams have slotted it out. A great example is GAM that we'll see later on today, like swapping out their bot lane and the excitement of those new players coming in. So I'm excited to see which philosophy wins out and how much teams have improved since then.
Do you think it's easy, or do you think it's very hard to actually get a read on how good or bad these teams could be? Because I think we've already got preconceived notions in power rankings, right? But it's been a long time, new patches, but a while since they played domestically.
They're not all going to be good. I'm just going to put it out there, okay? And it's easy to grasp this. I think there's some misconceptions for a lot of people that tune in. Of course, there's always the chance that a team will make it through and they'll actually be a contender like VCS was back in the day. And that's kind of what you're hoping for some of these minor regions. But I can say, like, none of these teams are winning worlds, but that's not what they're playing for either. Yeah. They're moving their region forwards. They're continuing with their players. And that's what's excited to look at as well. Yeah. But yeah, that's at least my take on it.
Honestly, adaptation is the word of the play-in stage right now because, as you've mentioned, how many patches have come and completely changed the meta from a really hectic portion of it where you're seeing the LLA, CB LOL, even VCS like have really action-packed bloody games. But now we're seeing Orianna, yesterday's games, where you're seeing a lot more front to back, play it safe. I want to see if the adaptation has been made from some of these teams.
Also, I want to see what yesterday's 3 games, what kind of insight it gives us into how the meta is going to play out. Obviously, it's a very small sample size, so we don't know. Yeah. One last quick question before we move into our pre-match. VCS, how do you think preparation will have been impacted by the Asian games? Obviously, the players were not going to be in the core units together. You know, I think it could have an impact.
I reached out to them, and you know, each VCS team had to send 3 of their players.
Yes.
Yeah. So that means Team Worlds had 2 players they could play with. So did GAM. So they moved in together, and then they found a 5th member. And to quote the analyst, we had McDonald's scrims to keep practice going. So coming into it, Asia Game has obviously had an impact on some of these teams, and that is something we will see from the VCS.
I think it'll be pretty good for them. The fact that they, even though they played so many patches behind on the Asian Games patch, the fact that they were going up against such talents in the Team China, being able to win out in that series and then have that series versus Team Korea, you're not going to get that quality of practice anywhere.
So whether or not those individual abilities can then be brought back together as a cohesive team, that's what we're going to find out. Game, of course, we'll be playing a little bit later today. We'll take a look at how the rest of the teams will be performing. And with 7.5 minutes to go before picks and bans in the first best of Worlds 2023, let's dive into PSG versus R7. I want to start with R7. I think they've got the uphill battle. I think my expectations is this team is not the favorite, shall we say, but I do want to highlight that they didn't lose a single best of series in summer. Incredibly dominant. I think their time with the major lead of the entire summer season, 40% of game time. I mean, that is phenomenal.
Look, I've been pretty high on the PCS for a long time, but I'm feeling excited for Rainbow 7. I think they'll take a game. Like, they're an example of a team that from MSI Spring Split to this time, they've improved dramatically. As you've mentioned, not dropping a series. They've been really limit testers within their region. They've been bloody, diving constantly. I love to see that. I think they'll reel it back in this meta, but I'm feeling pretty good about this team.
They're taking a game of PSG?
Yeah.
Just to clarify what Raz just said, he didn't say they win the series. He's happy if they win a game. But I do agree as well, because that's a hard sentiment. PCS is by far the best region coming into today, in my opinion, and R7 is looking to continue on their trajectory with the same roster that they've kept to build on what they achieved at MSI.
So let's talk a little about that mid laner, Mireu. Very strong performances, very strong stats and whatnot. But I think, what was it Cool Book you kept saying? If he's not an Ahri, you're not...
Okay, I don't want to be as harsh on him now, but Ahri is by far his best champion. Let me put it like this. Sometimes when he's playing other champions, he does look like he's running it down a bit. There was a time when he was playing Jace in playoffs, he literally dived level 2 by just running in an Azir. The Azir flashed away, and he died. So your expectations of what you're getting of Mireu can be a bit up in the air. You might get him on a good day, and he's going to look insane like he's done in the Ahri, and you might get him on a bad day where he will actually look like your solo queue mid laner.
And the reason I wanted to set it up that way, I think it is very important to share with our viewers, especially viewers that may not be as familiar with Mireu in terms of which champions he can have an impact on, and also we'll be pleasantly surprised if things go well.
That's the excitement of it.
Yes,
there it is.
And the hopefulness of it too, right?
Yeah, and for me at least, I love that he's as aggressive as he is. His team is playing around it. We're seeing constant plays around mid lane, very creative plays from their support in which he's going around the lane so they don't expect him to be on the top side of the map instead of the bot side of the map. They're relentless in how creative they are in trying to make action happen mid lane. So I hope they don't play so passively with how we've seen the meta basically shaping up I'm excited to see how Mireu is going to play this.
And I
one
mean,
out.
correct me if I'm wrong here, but Rainbow Seven as a team traditionally quite kill heavy, quite aggressive in the early game, not necessarily playing for like plates or control. See hero, kill hero type of gameplay.
Exactly.
We'll see if that'll work. The reason I wanted to focus in on Mireu specifically is because it's one of the golden oldies on the desk. Many viewers who may be as old as I am will remember Maple, the legend of the LMS, the people's champion of the PCS. He's back. He's in the mid lane, starting for PSG. I mean, when we take a look at his experience, we take a look at just how many events this man has played, I think Mireu's going to have an even tougher task today.
First of all, you don't have to be plus 30 to know who Maple is. I'm fully capable of knowing who this guy is.
I was starting to lose that memory.
I was here when these things was happening, but that's also the experience you're going up against. While Maple has been here for so long, it's not like his skill level has actually taken a hit by this. If you watch the PCS as well, you would realize how skillful he was in the mid lane, how much pressure he actually had in terms of just getting priority, mostly playing champions like Azhi as well, where he was insane, and then just moving it around the map and playing around junglers like JunJia.
Yeah, and the point that I wanted to hit, the amount of first-team All-Pros he was able to hit since the beginning of his career to this point, the amazing consistency that he's had, he's still the student of the game, and that's what's amazing about a career like Maple. I remember when he was on TSM, and he was like carrying that corpse across the finishing line with how solidly he was playing. So I love seeing Maple. You are right, it's going to be a little bit tougher for Mireu. That's why he has the help of Lyonz and Oddie. So it's going to be a constant 3v3, 2v2 to get that guy ahead.
Yeah, Maple did not play Jace most of the time, but what they did though instead was that they adapted to Taliyah, where you cannot build Crown of the Shadow Queen on a Jace, and they just blow you up. So while they're not fully always on the adaptation of what champions meta, they're on the adaptation in how do we shut the meta champion down. And that's also what I'm looking towards a new meta for Maple with.
Let's quickly zoom out just before we dive into one of the players to watch. Give me a quick overview of what you're going to expect from PSG as a team, Rainbow Seven as a team, so that as viewers and myself, we know what to look for and what we want to evaluate.
Yeah, I think that JunJia has to be a game you put out there, right? He was the MVP in so many of their games, but also their final summer MVP. And I think this is a perfect meta for JunJia with the kind of champions you're coming through. He was known for playing every now and then a game of Sack, some Maokai, the Sejuani, Poppy, all these facilitators, but he's a guy that also loves being facilitated by his team. We saw the Lilia in the finals, but also now we know that Belvis is up there as a priority pick, Lee Sin is up there as a priority pick. I want to see JunJia be released and not handicapped by having to play these facilitating junglers.
I love that you said Lee Sin, because look at the list out here. As you have mentioned, the wealth of options that he had, the AP junglers that I kind of expected going into this tournament to be really favoring him, but the fact that Lee Sin is a priority pick, and that's kind of the pick that he's made a name on, especially when he was a trainee on EDG. I want to see what he is going to be playing in this series, because they're going to let him go. He gets the green light for any action, and it's going to be his teammates that follow him.
Now listen, Raz, when you said R7 are going to be picking up a game against PSG, neither Gulborg nor my face was on camera at the time. We rolled some eyes a little. So with a little bit of time to go before we get the Mastercard fan predictions up, I want you to tell me how and where do you expect R7 to be able to pick up a win?
I think it's going to come through mid lane. I think Mireu, as much as we question him as being a coin flip player, though, when we see him play at his best, it's
absolutely.
We see him play at his best when he's extremely aggressive, when they're looking for dives through mid lane with him. So I think he's going to be that one that leads the charge alongside Lyonz and Oddie. So that's how I think they're going to pick up a game. The problem is when it starts being a longer mid game, they're going to lose waves on side lane. That's when it's a little bit harder for them, but they're going to give them a shock and awe, at least in one game.
Before I get Gulborg to respond to this very...
I'm ready.
Optimistic.
Don't give him too much time.
I want to see what the fans at home have predicted, what you're thinking about the Mastercard fan predictions. Each day you can head over to @MastercardGG on X to participate. The vote has come in.
Look,
88.5% in favor of PSG. I think that's indicative. I think that's also expected in terms of the matchups. We've less than a minute to go. 2-0 or 2-1?
I think it's 2-0, and I think it's for the reason that both these teams has Drake Soul as such a big win condition for them, and they prioritize the bot side of the map so heavily as they do. And I think with the skillful laners you have at PSG as well, that's where it will become very difficult for R7 to strike. I actually think, though, if you want to strike, you strike at the bot lane, because there's so many times where Wako get left by himself on the first Herald, and if you can have a play where instead of fighting at Herald, you cross map down on the bottom and you try and shut the enemy AD down, that can set you up for more dragon stacking towards the mid game. But I'm curious to see how they will attack this game itself and the series in general.
One player I haven't even touched yet is Bong, who I feel like is really good isolated. If he's in that 1v1, he will do his job. So expect the 4v4 on the bot side of the map to be look, I agree PSG is going to have an upper hand in a lot of these games, but Bong is going to be the tipping point.
Well, we'll find out whether or not R7 can rely on Bong to hit up that top lane or not. Ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else, without further ado, it is time to kick off World 2023 play-in stage with PSG Talon versus Movistar R7.
월드 챔피언십 플레인인데 DRX와 RNG의 경기가 잡았어요! 자 갑니다! 그룹 스테이지가 시작되는데 진짜가 오는 거죠? CC를 워낙 잘 타고 있는데 일로 와!
Neeko, let's dance.
진출입니다. DRX의 용두룩스 전기력
업셋 게임셋 통화는 진화가 됩니다. DRX
2022 LOL 월드 챔피언십 파이널. 기가 막힌 경기가 이어지고 있습니다. 백도 기원입니다. DRX가 이 말도 안 되는 스토리를 완성시킵니다.
가을 가을이란 우월지의 계절인 것 같습니다. 나뭇잎이 서서히 물들어가는 이맘때 시작해서 깊어지는 가을과 함께 롤드컵의 서사도 함께 물들어가죠. 2014년, 2018년, 그리고 2023년 월즈. 다시 한번 한국에서 가을과 함께 시작합니다.
经历了7次的世界赛了，这次也不例外。我会奋斗到最后一刻。La verdad es que no me importa mucho tipo lo que piensen de mí. Si estoy acá es porque merezco estar acá.
한 번 다시 오지 않을 기회라 생각하고 최선을 다하겠습니다.
ジャングルの位置分かんないと、ここにホッピーいるのこの情報がないとマジでランブル怖いタイミングだけど。
自己觉得其实 DFN 跟我蛮像，就是以中下为主的队伍，什么都玩了。但他比赛不会这样。
To be out of LEC twice and then finally have this chance. It's been a long time coming, and finally, I'm here.
Từ lúc mà thành lập tới giờ thì đây là thành tích đầu tiên mà team có thể làm được. Nhưng mà giấc mơ này vẫn chưa kết thúc.
Chung kết thế giới đơn giản là một giải quan trọng nhất trong năm. Được chứng kiến Renekton đi từ vòng play-in đến vô địch chung kết thế giới, thật sự rất là truyền cảm hứng cho tụi mình.
Eu pensei comigo mesmo que dia pode ser eu.
Mình sẽ làm được.
Agora tá na hora de criar uma nova história.
Tôi rất mong chờ được đối đầu với các bạn.
Vamos todos dar nosso melhor.
작년 DRX의 우승은 모든 것을 바꿔놨습니다. 더 이상 불가능이란 존재하지 않습니다. 플레인 스테이지 이제 시작합니다.
Their first championship being in the spring of 2020. This org has since won 6 championships and is now PCS's most decorated team, PSG Talon.
PSG 탈론입니다.
At this year's MSI, they picked up LLA's first international best of series win. Now, they're looking to make it 2. It's Movistar R7.
같은 멤버로 2연속 국제 무대에 도전하는 모비스타 R7입니다.
Hello and welcome everybody. Come one, come all. It is the beginning of the League of Legends World Championship 2023. I am Just Ushi and joined by the delightful Dagda as we are going to be bringing you our first 2 series of the tournament. And I'm so excited. I'm welling up now. I got butterflies in my stomach, man. It's so good.
It's so good to be back. And I'm super excited to see exactly what's being brought to the table by the Plains teams as well. I mean, especially PSG Talon, a team I've been very hyped for. A lot of old faces that I would have known from playing the LPL. So I'm excited to see exactly how they will do up. Even Maple coming back into the roster. But as we kind of like announced there, I mean, R7 picking up the first international best of win at MSI for the region. Now going to see if they can try and put it to PSG Talon here as well.
That's the big thing. Like R7, like Latin America, they kind of felt like a little bit of a nobody region for a while there, but they got put on the map for MSI. So it really felt like they could kind of maybe build upon that. But look, you know, we can be hopeful, but hope is sometimes a dangerous thing because they have got a pretty big task ahead of them. PSG Talon are no cakewalk.
Yeah, they've looked absolutely spectacular, and I think kind of the team to beat coming into this when you start off with World's Plains. I think the big one for me is trying to see if you can punish when it comes to the overextensions that we sometimes get from players like JunJia. If you can do that, maybe you've got an opportunity, but let's be real, PSG Talon have been absolutely spectacular. Their objective setup is really, really clean. Their team fighting is great, especially with Wako kind of providing that big DPS from the back line. And I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle here for Movistar R7 to try and find that victory spot.
Yeah, and look, It's been a while since I've had a last cast. The LPL ended very early. It's 13-13. We are now coming on to 13-19. So give me kind of a flavour of what we expected. So a little bit of it yesterday within the World's Qualifying Series. What are you expecting to be the kind of the must-haves or must-bans?
Well, look, Orianna is broken as all hell. So Orianna definitely
They tried their hardest. They really did.
They definitely did. But I think you start to see a little, maybe coming into this, a bit of a different look coming through from the jungle. Like you got to see at least a little bit of like the Taliyah starting to come through where they were willing to flex into the jungle. But we're starting to see a few more of those carry picks coming through in that jungle as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more of that. Even in LEC, we got to see Karthus brought out a little bit in the jungle, but I think we're going to start to tend a bit more towards that. Still got a lot of your carries in the top lane, the Jaxes, the Renektons, Camille starting to flex their way into that as well. Gwen still very, very strong. And then your ID carry pool, a few of the lane bullies back. Lucian, Caitlyn, that kind of mixing things up, but you're still going to get a lot of that Kai'Sa and those kind of things as your top dogs coming into this.
Yeah, the hyper carries. We'll see what the builds of the Kai'Sas are. I've seen a lot of cooking online going in, but I don't think we shall wait any longer. We shall no longer hypothesize where we are going. New format, same stakes. You have to try and do your best. You have to take every game as it comes, and you have to put your best foot forward. We should be jumping into Champ Select straight away.
Yeah, the best of three is definitely going to try and help that in a certain extent, where you can try and figure out your landing on the patch, because as you saw yesterday, like two very different looks coming through for GG and BDS, and BDS going more towards, hey, we're going to go for that tank jungler in the Maokai and try and play towards that, and I kind of expect that from Oddie a little bit here. I am curious though to see what JunJia brings out, because the bet says we already see the bans coming through, Lee Sin taking off. JunJia, big niddly player, really likes trying to go for that more carry orientated style where he's allowed to, even things like the Lilia as well, kind of in his wheelhouse.
You can always imagine there JunJia kind of going, do we have to ban Lee Sin? They're like, yes, we have to ban Lee Sin. Can I have it? No, we're not first picking it. Yeah, can I pet that dog? Exactly. Can I have that champion? No, unfortunately not. But the Rel again, still very, very powerful. Something that as well we kind of saw the other day is what something like the Renekton kind of went through one game and then was not allowed after the fact as well. Poppy gets taken away here, and a lot of those facilitating early ganking junglers just taken off the board.
Yeah, Senna gone as well. Senna has definitely risen up in priority, and you can see it paired with a lot of things like the Tam Kench as well coming back into that mix, but opens up a lot in that bottom side as well to try and be just such a nuisance and such a difficulty to pair it or to deal with in that laning stage. On the upside there, Akali taken away. So I think you're kind of looking at things like the Taliyah, we saw a lot of priority on. Ori Azir, probably going to be high priority. But even some things that we saw banned away yesterday, like the Jarvan becoming very, very strong because of Spirit Shojin. And with the amount of jungle bans we're seeing, that could definitely be something that was looked at early here. But I think Azir, Ori probably going to be the higher priority.
Yeah, we're interested to see the Vi kind of still being there. Look, at the end of the day, no matter what way the jungle kind of changes, Vi is still very viable because she's just point and click CC. Pick champ, C champion, pick champion, kill champion. But now that we come into this one, PSG will have that first priority, and they might be, yeah, exactly as you said, the Jarvan having huge priority just given the amount that have been taken off the board.
Yeah, it must be a case of, hey, look, we're kind of happy to pick whatever's on the opposite side of that matchup. Like, we can go for the Ori, we can go for the Azir. Ezreal, also another 80 carry pick that's been very, very high priority in that bot lane. Very safe, great scaling, and the opportunity then for your support to start to roam around the map is going to be massive as well, especially if you've got that aggressive Jarvan on the opposite side.
Yeah, that's locked in as well. I love the Ezreal here as well, because actually the Jarvan kind of, it's almost like a game of chess really. It's like, we got the Jarvan, that means the Xayah isn't as viable. You're going to have to look for something different because, you know, there's sometimes Z-axis in League of Legends, but it doesn't work with Cataclysm, unfortunately. But that's not going to be picked, so we got the Ezreal locked in already. I feel like, yeah, I was going to say the Renekton is such an easy pickup right now. It could be blinded into so many matchups.
Yeah, 100% win rate for Bong as well, and a 4.8 KDA for him. So he's been very, very strong in this pick. And you heard the desk talk about it. Bong in isolation is terrifying, but Azhi is no pushover either. So I'm actually really excited to see what this matchup is going to be in that top side. But maybe a Jax pick going to be coming through if it makes it through that second rotation. But at the moment, I think it is going to be 80 carry locked in here. Xayah is a good option, plenty of peel. And then I imagine going to be that mid lane role picked up here as well. But looks like maybe they're looking at the Rakan instead. Yeah, just going to solidify that bot lane instead.
Okay, interesting enough. PSG kind of happy with whatever goes into that top lane matchup against the Renekton and willing to let those bans come in. So we do expect things like the Cassante and the Jax to be banned away.
Yeah, I imagine so. On the upside here, though, I'm curious to see what Mireu wants to go for, because Mireu has definitely been someone that you kind of heard him on the desk, a little bit back and forth on how impactful he can be. Has looked spectacular and things like the Ahri. We'll have to see what he can do now on this Taliyah. Got a lot of setup for him though. Like, at least at the moment, you've already got the Renekton. You imagine you're probably going to get some sort of CC coming through from your jungler as well. So these flip backs And even the opportunity to just like deny the Rakan engage, deny the Jarvan engage is going to be crucial for Mireu in this one.
And I love it as well because it's a little bit of a flex as well, like technically as well. It can go to Oddie into the jungle. So yes, we do expect it to go into that mid lane, but you do have that kind of flavor for you. And honestly, going into the next kind of things, you said Orianna was completely broken. R7 recognize that now and go, cool, let's ban it away, take it off the table.
Yeah, I think it'll be the Azir maybe coming through as well. So it looks like they're not as worried about Azhi in that top side, but I think at this stage, yeah, just try and solidify a strong matchup in the mid lane because there's very little things that can actually deal with the amount of push that Taliyah has, and that can open up a lot of opportunities then for Oddie to try and control JunJia in a lot of respects, because I think that's where the most terrifying matchup is. You heard Gulberg talk about it on the desk as well. Like, JunJia is very good at dictating the pace of the early game, getting PSG Talon set up so they can play for those late game fights, and I think that's where if Oddie can at least find that bit of wiggle room in the jungle matchup with pushing lanes, he can have a chance.
Have a chance. The Jax, as you mentioned earlier, will get banned away, so we'll not have a Jax into our next matchup. Might just be the Cassante in that top side. We'll have to wait and see. But again, kind of putting in all these jungle bans. So many jungle bans. 6 in total. Technically 7 because the Ezreal can still be flexing to that. So really, really going to see if Oddie has, you know, kind of is he going to go for Taliyah or if he's got something else in his pocket.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get any of those funny picks that we're seeing on the screen. But I mean, look, the buy's gone was one for him as well. Viego was his other most, like third most played when you look at the stage 1 and the Maokai gone. So looks like he is going to be trying to play a little bit of that carry-orientated style, which traditionally is not kind of what we see from him. It has been more, as we say, the tank focus. So with the setup you have from Taliyah, that's a pretty strong mid-jungle, but you have to be so careful because Jarvan can interrupt that incredibly well. I'm curious to see what Maple actually decides to go for here. I think Azir, Neeko, both these could work out very, very well in just providing great team fight, which is kind of where PSG like to sit.
That's the thing as well. Like, you look at the composition from R7 right now, like outside of kind of like, you know, in terms of their carries, they're just kind of poking you down, making sure your health bars are down about 2/3, 50%. Then they go for the engage with maybe a flanking Renekton and a Viego coming in from the side. But if you just have this kind of Venn diagram of death with the Rakan, the Cataclysm, of course, the Pop Blossom, you're going to have an awful lot to kind of throw back at that. And let's just add even more circles to the matchup if you're going to lock in this Kennen as well.
Yeah, and Kennen did get some really nice buffs on this patch as well, coming into 13-19. So I think he's in a really strong spot. I think we're going to see him more and more at Worlds. And when you've already got, as you say, like, now, just more circles to the Venn diagram, it works out incredibly well. Yeah, this is a very, very strong teamfight team for PSG Talon. The good news as well is pushing top. You've got good control over bot side as well, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for Oddie to try and get into the face of PSG Talon. But on the opposite side for R7, I mean, you've got great skirmishing power if they can try and set those up in the early stages.
That's the big thing, and as well as that, like with the Taliyah and the Nautilus, fantastic ways of delaying engage, with great ways of stopping them from getting on top of your carries. So really is going to be how they're able to execute on that composition. But I will say for PSG, the great thing about all this engage is that even if they lose one player, they still have options.
Yeah, I think the big one for me coming into this is like, when I watched PSG Talon's games, they're incredibly good at, hey, we want to reset on time, we want to set up our mid waves and set up our waves states correctly for our objective setup and get in towards dragons. And with a composition like PSG are playing, you want to set up for flanks. You want Kennen to be coming in from one angle, Neeko from another, Rakan coming in from another side. You want to make sure you've got multiple different angles of attack here, and I think that kind of plays in towards what has been the strength of PSG Talon. So for me, this is kind of R7 saying, hey, look, we want to try and disrupt that. We want to get in early, get some early skirmishes going, particularly if we can try and play around this Renekton top side for things like Rift Herald, and then look to try and set up something for ourselves where we're just coming into these fights with an early lead and preventing you from getting that vision that allows your composition to function.
Well, no expectations at the moment. 0-0 on the board. You don't really know who's going to pop off, who's going to make a moment of themselves. And it really does kind of come down to, doesn't matter about the rest of the season, it's all about now. You have to get a good start. PSG Talon versus Movistar R7. Game 1 of the League of Legends World Championship 2023 is about to begin.
You hear the cheers from the crowd there. Excited to see R7 take the stage, but we're going to have to see if they can try and continue what has been, at least for them, the campaign started last year, or last MSI, to try and set themselves up with that first win. They're going to have to see now if they can do it again against PSG Talon. But PSG Talon, honestly, we were kind of talking before the game. If PSG Talon don't make it in towards groups, it feels like a failure for this team. They are so incredibly strong. Plus, even having guys like Corgi, the ex-EDG assistant coach, when they won Worlds, like, this is a team that is set up to take over the region, continue the legacy that PSG Talon have. And it's been amazing to see how they've kind of continued that legacy for.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I don't think it's unfair to say that PSG Talon have just been dominating in the PCS ever since they kind of became PSG Talon, and it has just kind of come down to how they want to try and, you know, progress, how they want to try and push for things as such like that to get beyond the play-in stage, and then even further from there. Of course, new format here in the play-in stage, new format in the Swiss as well, so in the group stage. So we'll see how far they can go. There's definitely an awful lot more up in the air. It's definitely not as clean cut as it used to be.
I mean, I'm excited to see just even how some of these new champions coming into this kind of work out. Like Kennen having the buffs that he got coming into this is, I think, going to be an incredibly strong matchup into the Renekton. This was always a bit of a skill matchup depending on how you positioned yourself in the lane. If the Renekton could try and close the gap, get onto the Kennen, you're in a good spot. But with the likes of the Summon Airy, if you're just getting poked down, it's so difficult to try and manage. You can already see Bong losing a good bit of damage in this early laning phase, and the push should be in a good spot for Azhi.
A bit of an engage down in the bot side, but no level 2 hit by the Nautilus makes this one a little bit harder. Aggressive move there from Xayah, one of the big carries from MSI.
Yeah, I think Lyonz just missed out on one of the CS, so you can see a little bit behind on the level 2 spike. So even though he went in aggressive, didn't quite have the level that he's expecting to, so they couldn't quite go all in there. But you can still see push going in favor of Xayah and Lyonz for the moment. But I do think as Wako gets access to level 3, he'll be able to start getting control over this lane state, and that's where it'll become a little bit easier for JunJia to try and look for maybe some control over this bottom side, like get into the face of Oddie. But I imagine we're going to see a lot of pressure from JunJia towards the lanes, and that's kind of where he's been a staple for PSG Talon.
Yeah, well, since it is the beginning of Worlds, don't forget to log in and watch on lolesports.com to earn exclusive Worlds 2023 drops like emotes and icons. Lots of free things. Everyone likes free things. I like free things.
Yeah, great. I mean, look, it's simple economics, isn't it?
I was going to make a joke about yesterday, but then I stopped myself. Free things.
You don't get to...
I wasn't even there.
That's all right.
That's not even my region, but sometimes it's just fun.
You don't kick him out while he's down. That's just bad. But, you know, I think for a lot of these like drops and gifts and stuff like that, it's actually kind of sick. I'm a little bit sad that like I end up working these events a lot, so I end up missing out on them.
Yeah,
so it's just
right?
like, oh, can you just add it to my account?
I always message my flatmate and I'm like, hey, turn on PC, please. Thank you.
I would message my brother, but my PC isn't even there anymore.
That's right, yeah. You're home, but you're not home.
No. I'm home, but I'm in a hotel, which is a weird one to come back to Ireland for.
Yeah, well, obviously it's been a pretty quiet 4 minutes or so far at the start of this game, and honestly it's kind of what we expected to happen. PSG, they don't really have a huge amount of ways of kind of affecting the lanes unless the Jarvan comes in, and JunJia just hasn't really had an opportunity, as all these lanes, except for bot lane, obviously have been pushing in.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to wait and see for a little bit. I think the real fight is going to start to kick off when this dragon starts to come up. Like now that Wako's hit level 3, we'll be able to shove out this wave, get his own reset in to match the reset from Xayah, and then they'll be in a decent spot to try and control the wave. Especially when you're looking at, hey, look, we've got so many ultimates to kick off at level 6. Rift Tower is going to be another big one for PSG Talon, but a lot of it's going to revolve around, hey, can we try and get multiple members up towards this top side? Because I think if you don't have, like, Woody on his way as well to try and help this one out, there's opportunities for Oddie to try and play around Bong, like get a quick combo there to take out Azhi, or, you know, a lot of setup that can come through from Mireu as well. So it can make the team fights a little bit tough with just trying to play into what R7 have in that 3v3 skirmish.
And the thing is, like, you know, it's been passive as such, but you can see the CS leads in the top lane, a little bit of CS lead as well in the mid and the bot. Just small little incremental advantages being kind of brought up here for PSG Talon. And Oddie, unfortunately, he's sitting on a ward. They have full recognition and vision of what's going on here. He's not really going to find much else, but we are eking towards having a level 6 potentially. And Oddie, they know you're there, and there's a Jarvan off to the side as well. They're going to try and fully engage onto this one here. The flick back does not land as the flash was used by Maple. Oddie taking a lot of damage, still has his flash if he needs it. Good rocks being thrown here by the Taliyah, means that nothing else going to come out of it, but flash burnt by Maple.
Yeah, great bait though from PSG, right? They're like, hey, look, we know he's on a ward, we're going to try and make a play. And you can see on the opposite side, R7 did have vision down to the Raptors, so they knew that Jarvan was probably going to be in this top side, but decided to go for the play anyway. Maple's flashed down, but you got a good amount of damage returned onto Oddie.
Now that the level 6s are hit, this is where I'm starting to get a little bit more kind of ready, if you will. Anticipation is building as we know that these teams are going to go for it. And I love what R7 are doing, recognizing, hey, we just saw the Jarvan mid. We can be aggressive. We can start to push this up a little bit further and maybe get a bit more of a lane pushed in spot side.
Yeah, I think the downside for this is that, like, for the downside for PSG is that Lyonz has a good amount of potential here against Woody that we might just see now. That's kind of the downside, is if you ever try to go forward as Rakan, so much of that CC can be plonked in your direction, can make it hard to go aggressive in this matchup. But at the moment, you're still going to be able to find there's a good amount of CS underneath this tower. They got Oddie down on the spot side just to make sure they continue this push in. They even start up the dragon here with the amount of control that R7 have over the bot side. I'm watching to see exactly what Maple wants to try and do, because it wasn't even top.
So Xayah looked for the knock up, didn't land it, flash in, they get the root down, Wako has to cleanse, there's a lot of damage coming down, first blood, oh, not quite! That Mystic shot was a hair away from setting up R7 in the bot side.
Yeah, I love the aggression though. They see that, hey, look, the knock-up is completely missed, and Mireu knows it as well, so Oddie going to finish off this dragon, and now that Taliyah is on the way, Jarvan though, JunJia waiting in the wings to try and turn this around.
I love this move from R7 as well. They built up the pressure bot side, had a ginormous wave, so there's no way it's coming from there. And not only that, but JunJia dropped a ward on top side that immediately got him found out, so they knew where the Jarvan was. Great reactions from R7, get themselves the reward in the first dragon.
Yeah, they do end up getting the advantages, obviously, with the cleanse being down, the flash for Woody being down and that, but, I mean, they burnt Lyonz flash as well. Most of that was, the CS was picked up underneath the tower as well by PSG Talon, so it would have been nice if they could have got slightly more, but still, I love that we're getting this aggressiveness out of R7 to try and find these little advantages.
And of course, it's just kind of how these teams are playing. JunJia was spotted before he came down here, did clear out a pink ward before, or a vision ward before he came down here, so they know he's roughly in this area, but are they willing to bet he's waiting?
No, I think it's a good job from JunJia. Like, come down, escort the wave in for PSG, make sure there's no funny business from Oddie. He actually stays close enough to the wave as well, where he pings level 6, which is kind of the big mark you want to hit just before you come in towards this Rift Herald fight that's going to be happening in about 10 minutes time, or 10 seconds time as well. So you help your own bot lane get the reset, and PSG can actually drag Woody up, as you can already see now, towards that Rift Herald, whereas they can keep Wako safe and sound on the spot side as he's about to ping over to level 6.
Yep, gets himself the Feather Storm, so very hard to kind of lock him down once more. Oddie is level 6 as well, so should have the Heartbreaker. And I mean, look, all the pressure and all the great things that are happening for R7, they are paying the price. It is a push and pull game, and I'll stop myself. They're waiting in the wings here. Does Maple walk towards it? That is the question. Woody is there as well. They're going to get the stun down. No rule. He really needs to land that. A little bit of CC. That flick back just missing is going to unfortunately mean we'll go on for first blood.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened with Lyonz. I think he was trying to Hex Flash over the wall to follow up on it, and he failed the Hex Flash and hooked the wall, so there wasn't really the follow-up there that they needed. JunJia had started up the Rift Herald, but, I mean, at the moment, you still got a good amount of control here for R7 in the jungle. Yes, they used Oddie's ultimate, which is a bit of a sucker punch, and they might just back away, but it looks like at the moment PSG aren't as confident to try and go for this. They want to get the reset onto Maple. They'll now have to come back into lane before they can really look for this.
Yeah, bot lane should be pushed in here by Wako, and that should be kind of the real trade-off right now. Does still have TP here onto Mireu, so should be able to kind of get down, clear this ward, and join up if he's needed around that Rift Herald.
Yeah, and that's why R7 get mid-prio off the back of Maple having to reset. Now they know, as you say, Mireu can always join in, so they've got the numbers advantages. So I'd be surprised if PSG really want to try and contest this.
Oh, no, they get the root down, they get the knock-up as well. Level 6 hit, the Cataclysm comes in for JunJia. He does get the knock-up at the back of it. There's a slightly Maelstrom, but it only really lands onto one, and now they can turn and burn for this fight. First blood finally goes over to Xayah. Nice knockback here from Mireu as he gets on top of two. The Pot Blossom is decent, but there's no damage right now. The resets are coming in. Double kill for Xayah. R7 are doing well in the early game.
R7 are coming in hot to Worlds 2023. Mireu TP's in. They get the fight, and PSG way too over-aggressive. They didn't have the numbers, they didn't have the setup, and everything rushed and everything goes awry.
Xayah doesn't have flash or heal, doesn't have his Arcane Shift either, and that's a shutdown there. Just not expecting the rat to be in the bush.
That's a big win for PSG though, because after you just had that fight go wrong, having Azhi now pick up 2 kills off the back of this means this Kennen is going to be kind of terrifying as this game starts to go on. At least they get something back, but still R7, massive play for them, and you get to see it here, right? You can see Mireu catches that wave on bot side, and immediately Xayah starts to move up, but Lyonz is already engaged here. They get a massive knock up onto 2 people. You just don't really have the damage because JunJia immediately has to get out of the equation. Oddie manages to flash away from that engage, so the Kennen not really doing as much work as he wants, and as he pointed out in the fight, massive flick back from Mireu, gets the CC, gets the damage down, and sets up then for those resets on Oddie as well.
Yeah, just skirting around the vision in that top side there. And Xayah, sadly, had already used his Arcane Shift in the early game. That is a hell of a cooldown there. I think it's like 20+ seconds at the first few levels. So really, really unfortunate there. Look, it's a small win back for PSG, but R7, they're still going to be feeling pretty good there. You can see there the MasterCard lane economy massively in favor of the kind of rest of the map, apart from Bong. But in fairness, he knew he was playing weak side anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where you're kind of going, hey, look, the extra gold onto Xayah is going to get him towards his Triforce, going to get him up towards his tier item as well, and you're going to be totally fine. I think Bong definitely does want to try and like stay at least even in this lane though, because when you're a Renekton, you just become nothing if you start to fall behind. So Azhi getting those 2 kills was actually pretty big for them. But unfortunately, as you said, like we were talking about, like Xayah giving over that kill in the early stages now means that Azhi, a lot of these fights are going to rely on him. The Xayah just isn't going to be able to keep up with the damage the Xayah is going to be able to churn out as long as he's landed the Mystic shots. So this Kennen is going to be the menace that PSG Talon need to work on.
And the big thing about that last fight as well is that we saw all the ultimates, but they were kind of like Cataclysm a couple of seconds later. Then it was the Slicey Maelstrom. Then a couple of seconds later. Then it was the Pop Blossom. It wasn't a big wombo combo. It was kind of one after the other. When you're able to get those all together, that's when you're going to see a huge amount of burst coming out from PSG. And R7 need to be very, very wary of that. But yeah, you can see by the total damage, it's pretty in favor of the Kennen right now because of just all the poke they're able to throw out.
Yeah, I know. That's why we kind of need to look at the flashes as we start to come in towards a lot of these fights, right? And specifically on towards Mireu and R7, he's the flash you need to worry about. Xayah will be fine. He's got his own Arcane Shift to be able to get out of there. Bong has got his way to slice and dice his way out of a lot of that damage, but if it's Mireu getting caught, he's just going to get completely wiped out. And if you then have that follow-up coming through from PSG Talon, it very quickly starts to snowball out of control. So that's where PSG, as you say, they need to kind of play patient and actually start to set up themselves up correctly. And unfortunately, that has been the biggest problem with PSG Talon, is just that impatience coming back to bite them at times.
Yeah, we saw that R7 tried to overload the top side there, but really not in a position there. I think that Azhi was just very, very smart of how he played it, because cool, all my team's bot side, we're taking Dragon, I do not need to be aggressive right now. Backs himself away, and it doesn't really lead to anything. You will still have the Rift Herald to be used, but where you use it's going to be key here now for R7.
Yeah, I imagine that this is probably going to go down in towards his bot side, like just try and snowball Xayah even more. There is an argument as well to try and get on towards Mireu, but I think you're so vulnerable if you're trying to overextend in the mid lane versus Maple and JunJia with just the 1-2 combo that they have. It'd be so risky, but maybe, just maybe they're looking to go first.
I'm going to try and pop it into Mireu, but again, this is just kind of priority in the top side now. Maple making sure that this does not have a clean push, and that's going to be all plates going over to the
jungler.
The jungler. Not the worst thing in the world with a Viego being a carry, but definitely would have preferred it to go onto the Taliyah, especially right now, to get that first item.
And that's what I was kind of saying, like, they didn't have vision on JunJia, so it's so scary to try and push up that far, especially with Woody even out of the equation as well. He wasn't showing on bot lane, so they completely back away and don't get as much as they'd like to. But yeah, Viego getting it is nice, but you definitely need to get Mireu into a position. Like, you can see one of the few people that doesn't have a mythic item picked up for him when it comes towards the damage dealers. So he'll be able to reset and more than likely pick up his Liandra's Anguish, but still this is giving PSG the opportunity to get the deep vision down, try and spot out how they want to attack, and it looks like it might be Mireu who's the target of that.
Yeah, Mireu just wants to try and clean up a bit of these waves. I do think they have enough in their inventory just to be able to get that last little bit of gold towards their item. Maple just going to stop them off. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I felt like that dummy stayed there a very long time, like a lot longer than it normally does. But I mean, double Triforce on the side of R7, they have got a pretty decent one. But yeah, you can see, yeah, that lane economy is starting to get bigger and bigger for PSG in that top side, and it's becoming a bit of an issue because, again, like you said, it doesn't become about the laning phase anymore. It becomes about those team fights. Oddie is going to get jumped on here. Will not have a huge amount of damage thrown onto him just yet. They've invested 2 ultimates. There's going to be Mireu coming back on top of this one here, though. JunJia immediately flashing after the fact to try and make sure he stays alive, but he does get taken out. Woody can't get the root down. TP's coming in. That's going to be the Kennen trying to or Maple, excuse me, coming in afterwards. Mireu cannot just be walked over this. Oddie gets a reset. Will not get the flick back, and they will trade back 1 for 1. So it's a little bit of a scrappy one there for PSG. They thought they found someone.
Yeah, they've tried to get the pick, but just not enough damage, and a good wall coming through from Mireu as well, because you've already got that ultimate there for Oddie to get himself back out of the the harm's way, but because JunJia had already used the flag and drag, wasn't able to follow across, same with Woody, so they end up overcommitting then for the pick, and at least R7 are able to get something back as Wako answers in return.
It was a 4v4 bot side, but actually in the top lane it was a little bit of a 1v1. We saw both ultimates used, we actually see the flash from Bong used as well, but let's have a look at this one here, because Oddie, they have full information on him, and that's why they feel comfortable to go in and try and get him out off by surprise.
Yeah, and you can see, like, yes, they get a ton of CC down, but the damage just isn't quite there, so Oddie's able to flash over the wall. I thought it was a little bit of a dangerous wall coming through there, but actually worked out. Mireu gets the kill, but unfortunately to try and do so, he ends up way overextending. Good knock up then from Woody as well to just find that speed for Wako, and with the W popped, Xayah ends up getting the movement speed towards our target, so she's able to just chase that one down.
Okay, so absolute soldier.
Yeah, so interrupts the TP coming in, and that's why he lost a lot of his health, lost his flash, and now he's lost his life.
That's very unfortunate. He was trying to be an absolute bro. Does have the slice, does have the dice, and he's able to get himself out there. Bong, despite the pressure being thrown onto him, is holding his own on that top side and doing what he needs to do for his team, keeping the Kennen away.
Yeah, Bong doesn't crack under the pressure, able to move back, get out of the position, and now R7 trying to set themselves up as well in this mid lane. Wako needs to be so careful.
Yeah, needs to be very, very careful. That mid lane going down could be huge. There's a pop blossom, the 1-3, the flash is good, but can they get the damage afterwards? They do get Xayah. The bomb comes in straight afterwards, a slice and dice will get him back over the wall. But I mean, just as Dragon's about to spawn as well, Rift Herald on this field as well. PSG should be able to get so much with this.
Yeah, great pick from PSG. Immediately moving over towards the Rift Herald. With 40 seconds on towards Dragon, they can even get the reset, use this Rift Herald then in mid lane to get pressure and commit towards that Dragon as well. So really great timing there. Again, this is why you got to be so careful and trying to contest on that mid wave. PSG have so many different angles of attack, and they catch out Xayah. They're such an important member for that.
Look, it is only a 1 kill, but you do get the tower. You do end up trading it though for a Rift Herald, tower in top lane, pressure around this Dragon in 20 seconds as well. Oddie's nowhere near it, so the junglers are actually going to find each other saying, so sorry, didn't mean to be here. And it's a little bit of a 2v2 for the moment, but I mean, it's a Jarvan. There's not really many situations he's going to be able to knock it out of.
Yeah, the thing is though, they've now committed several members in R7 to this top side. You're going to only delay time until this Dragon comes up. You'll have PSG who are going to be in a position to try and follow up on that. They're basically, PSG Talon are trying to delay the opportunity for R7 to go towards this, because they'd love the TP to be out for Azhi. Probably won't be, as R7 kind of realize that. It looks like they're going to immediately move over towards that objective, but you're still getting good reset timers here for PSG. And now they can start to try and contest this as Azhi, with push on top, is moving down.
Yeah, Oddie might have to use his own ultimate there. Not quite sure what happened there with the hook, but he misses it completely. The pop blossom on the 2, no jungler now available. Flick back is decent on the JunJia, but there's just not the damage right now from the Taliyah. Line's just gonna get taken out, and this is starting to change the momentum of the game. R7 had a good start, and now they're starting to fall apart. PSG just picking them away bit by bit.
Yeah, I think when you're looking towards this, R7 just need to take it slow. Like, see if they can get some poke with Xayah, get some poke with Mireu, like, get the vision down so you're not running in towards Maple every single time. But even with the flash down, Maple's able to make it happen. Now you get, well, they haven't moved over towards Dragon, but you'll have to get this mid lane tower at the moment. And R7, well, maybe not. R7 able to delay this. A lot of PSG kind of scattering to the 4 corners, so not committing enough for the mid lane tower just yet, but nearly.
Charles the Cannon Minion couldn't do it for PSG, unfortunately. But yeah, let's have a look at this fight all the way back to this mid lane, because they really overcommit for this tower.
Yeah, I mean, you've already got Flash there as well, coming through for Xayah, so he should never really be getting caught there. He probably had the Arcane Shift as well, but just not reacting in time. And then this as well, again, like, just overextension. Like, what is Lyonz going to be able to do here with Oddie? Like, Mireu, yes, can try and come in, but actually just ends up cornering off his own teammates in that situation. And Xayah has got to play super far back here, because he's worried about, you know, the Kennen coming in, Maple being in position. That's why, again, we're kind of saying, hey, look, you need to be able to set yourselves up early as R7 on these positions, like, control the choke points so PSG Talon can't just run in on top of you, but they just haven't really set themselves up for success in that regard.
And the thing is that, yes, we are seeing a trade of sides right now, PSG getting the Dragon, top lane being pressured in, but it's always PSG coming out on top. They're now getting bot lane pressure, they got the mid lane, they're getting so much more bang for their buck that it just feels like R7 are just constantly behind. Like, it's going to take it probably, maybe even another wave. It might just about get lucky, but I think, yeah, the Kennen's going to feel fine and walk up to this.
Yeah, I mean, probably won't commit much to try and keep it off, so eventually Mireu will be able to get this, but as you say, you trade mid, Dragon, and bot side tower here. Just be very careful as Bong, because you do have at least Jarvan hovering over the side, but Lyonz and Oddie are waiting in the wings as well, so we'll just back away.
Oh, interruption. That's there's still a flash and a cataclysm for JunJia, but I think he's just, the nice little bit of movement. Had himself the Gore Drinker for extra healing, but gets taken down, heartbroken, and this is where you're going to try and thrive as R7. Get those small pickoffs and build.
I keep thinking one team has an advantage, and immediately it's like, nope.
The ultimate caster curse.
Yeah, I mean, look at the gold, right? Like, 600 gold between the two teams, nothing whatsoever. I mean, a huge amount of this still is going to be on the Kennen in the top side, that like big gold difference, but like Xayah doing good damage. Oddie as well, you can see how much damage he could do to JunJia alongside Lyonz. So like there is a lot on R7 that can still be brought back here against PSG. So you can't just like wander into the bot side. You don't really have the opportunity, the vision to spot it exactly what the response is from R7.
Absolutely, and I think the big thing for R7 getting that pick as well is that, and it's not just about getting the gold, which is nice, obviously, but it's also getting the flash, because JunJia is going to be the big main engage and everyone else follows up with it. But great hook here from Lyonz.
Yeah, I think it was kind of just greedy from JunJia, to be perfectly honest. Like, all you had to do was walk into the Dragon Pit, flag and drag over the wall, and you're out fine, right? Like, walking that way through all that vision is just going to cause you issues, especially when it hasn't been fully cleared out. So, nice job from Lyonz to get that set up. And I think at this stage then, you got to try and go, hey, look, PSG, just take it slow. Just make sure that you're setting up properly. You already have seen that they can get a ton of picks when they're given the opportunity. They're playing well around their vision. But the problem is that now with that pick as well on JunJia, not only the flash is gone, but a lot of that control you had in River is gone. You can see like all that bot side vision has been cleared out. They're starting to get control over this Baron area as well. And that's where it now becomes a little bit more difficult for PSG to find these flank routes for their squad to get on towards R7.
I'm looking at two massive items that are being completed there. Void Staff for Mireu, who's going to try and make use of it right now. The Pop Blossom, just a delay. Double up in that one there. Doesn't get the flick back on top of that one. Good flash away from Mireu and by Bong. They're looking for an engage in the mid lane though, as we see JunJia and the rest of the team looking for more. They get the knock up here and the charm coming out from the Rakan. A shutdown comes out. Bong finally gets himself a little bit more redemption as he looks for a little bit more in this mid lane. Xayah and Oddie just can't do the damage. It's a 2-for-1 in the mid lane. Overall a 2-for-2.
2 for 2. Xayah still trying to see if he can get more. Maple as well. Still not out of the woods just yet. Xayah, he's feeling it, but I don't think he can really chase up. The second he arcane shifts forward, what he would go from has the flash, so maybe he's looking for the outplay, but Mystic Shot's just not quite landing.
Xayah is really starting to build up some confidence right now. Not many people will walk that aggressively in front of a Xayah and Rakan, and you can see there, Wako gets delayed as well, so that's a lot of damage in that tier 2, but let's have a look at the bot lane first.
Yeah, Bong stepping under the tower, Mireu comes in, and I like that they don't actually engage on this, right? So Maple trying to lock them up underneath the tower. The flick misses, stun, handled Azhi there, but then, yeah, it must have just, very overextension. Gore Drinker, the Q, a lot of opportunity to try and bring that one back, and Maple, you're kind of like a one-hit wonder in that bot side. Once you've used that combo, there's not much else in the tank.
Yeah, and then we saw, again, kind of fights on two fronts then, and all of a sudden, great hook to start it all off, and then it becomes so scrappy with everything being used.
Yeah, everyone on R7 flashing away from the pullback from Wako meant there wasn't really that big damage follow-up initially, and you're kind of waiting on that to restart. Oddie went in here thinking he could maybe get the reset, but just didn't quite have enough health bar left. And it meant that then it ended up being the 2 kills going across in the mid lane to answer for the bot lane.
I mean, Dagda, 23.5 minutes, 8-7. It is a 300 gold lead for ours. I mean, that goal graph tells it all there. It just really does. Like, it's been so close.
The goal difference over time powered by AWS says everything there. Like, the fact that you're getting that much of a back and forth roller coaster on this game tells a lot. But you have to look now at Bong. Being careful in that bot lane, realize that there might be some people trying to sneak in behind him, so he's going to back away.
I'm going to give like massive props to Bong right now. He was 30 CS down, and now he's nearly a full level up. Like, that's insane to think about what he's doing, because he's just done his job absolutely correctly and hasn't died.
I think a huge portion of that, though, is that, like, PSG are trying to drag Azhi into these fights because they realize, hey, look, realistically, this Kennen is our big damage dealer. We kind of need him to be at the forefront, but it's not really working out for him particularly well. Like, every time they try and drag him down, the fights have been a bit separated, so they're not quite able to get him into position to try and carry. Also, I'm not the biggest fan of his build. Like, adding the Morellonomicon in here is kind of nice against some of the healing from the Renekton, but I think a little bit overkill, especially when you're like, hey, look, I need to be the one that kind of steps up in these scenarios to be a big damage dealer. Like, I don't think the Morello offers you enough in that scenario.
Let's just see what they want to go for, and we are at a point now where you can burn down this Baron so quickly here as R7. They say, cool, you're going to take the dragon, that's fine, go for it. There's plenty of visions, or ways of getting vision right now. Right between the sticks here does go the True Shot Barrage. And everyone just kind of hovering in. We're starting to feel like we're one big fight from a really big moment in this game.
I like what R7 are trying to do, though. They're trying to play in towards their vision, say, hey, PSG Talon, you have to come through these choke points, which is where our composition is stronger, whereas PSG are trying to drag them into their own vision so they can have flanks and try and catch them out of multiple different angles. So at the moment, you can see both teams kind of in that stalemate and nobody really wanting to commit.
Wako! Don't know why he's there, but he's getting all the damage. He got the root as well. They walk straight into the feathers, and that's all they needed to do. Now you can see a fight on two fronts. They are getting damage down. Bong still keeping himself alive. Nicely done with the Pop Blossom, though. And that's a clean enough fight for the side of PSG. They lose one, they get four, and they can just barrel down the mid. They've got a huge minion wave.
I mean, Wako went God mode in that one. Immediately picks off Oddie, sets up PSG, and yeah, the wave is there. The base is going to be absolutely left in tatters. I mean, 15 seconds, 6 seconds until Xayah's up. Like, they could just go for the end.
They might think about it. It is only game one of this best of 3. Looks like they're just going to back away afterwards. They've got the Hex Gates. Everyone just walking away from this one here. And they're going to turn and burn for the big purple worm.
Yeah, immediately going to move over towards that one. Now, you have TP for Mireu, TP for Bong as well, so this could actually be a little bit risky, especially with Hex Tech Gates on the Rift as well. R7 trying to move in to contest Maple.
Has got himself a... it's a fake one. Fake dust out as well. They have vision on this, so they know what's going down. Oddie's got ultimate and flash. You can get on top of it. True shot for Oz. Lands on the Woody. They're putting them in. It's fish in a barrel. He goes get the Baron, but can they get out with it? Flash out immediately. Bong can't get into the fight right now. They're trying to get the stones in, but they just can't get the damage out. It was just a little bit too discoordinated from R7. You can see the idea. They just couldn't bring it together.
Yeah, they were just a couple of seconds behind and not quite up to get into pit, but we get a replay here. R7 walking in completely blind. I think PSG have walked away, but Wako, great setup there. The CC sets up beautifully for Woody then to come in over the wall. Azhi gets the answer on towards the backline because he's got a direct route. And it means now R7 going to move over towards the Dragon. They'll get it, but what else would they get?
What else can they get? JunJia tried to do a little bit of a drive-by, does get the Cataclysm out. Xayah just going to get himself away from this one here. Stopwatch used by JunJia means he won't get any more damage done onto him. And R7 are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. They need to get themselves out. Oddie doesn't have flash and ultimate because he used it last time. He will be sacrificed. And now Woody tries to go for a little bit more. Xayah, no flash, but does have the arcane shift. They're just poking them out right now. And everyone backs themselves away. Good for R7 to get the Dragon, but, I mean, you still have a Baron to contest with.
The problem was that they went for resets on R7. Mireu went back to base, so they weren't able to immediately burn down the Dragon as PSG were resetting after Baron. So PSG come back out, they get the kill. They're now going to get bot tower off of this, and they're going to get this bot inhibitor as well. You just don't have the people you need to defend this, especially with mid-wave now there as well.
Yeah, you have to be so careful here, Xayah. He just needs to make sure he's not getting caught out. JunJia has got a flash to go for a flash, flag, and drag if he really wanted to, and that's going to be another inhibitor turret exposed. Do they get the second inhibitor? That's the question. I mean, Wako has been fantastic with these routes as well. You can't even walk forward because he just always has 6 or 7 feathers dotted around the place.
Yeah, and look, with that, as soon as Azhi shows up, they're like, cool, we're going to be totally fine to take this. Can't really do particularly much.
No, feathers do go flying. Wako does get hit by the ultimate, but I mean, they're turning it all back on the Lyonz, who is ignited, getting taken so low. Is he? Yes, tick down Woody, finishing that one off in a little bit of supportal combat. And I mean, it's so difficult now to get this damage to stick, and they've got minions, they've got Baron, they might look for the end. They're going to go in, Cataclysm goes in straight away, there's the Pop Blossom down on the 2. They're just using these ultimates to try and stop everyone from dying, and Wako just feeling untouched, unfavorable in this fight is he, but PSG are going to be getting themselves the first win of Worlds 2023.
They pat in the KDA, they'll take down the Nexus, and PSG, you can see, smiles, but mostly relief, I think, in that one.
A little bit.
Not as clean as they would have hoped for, but they still managed to pick up the win.
Absolutely. Look, I think it's definitely kind of kudos to PSG. They were thrown a lot in that early game. It definitely felt like R7 came in with a game plan. And thankfully for PSG fans, they were able to kind of bring that back, kind of deal with the adjustments, get themselves into a much better position. And then once they found themselves in those big team fights, like we mentioned with the kind of Venn diagram of death, they found themselves having an awful lot more kind of ease in these team fights.
Yeah, I think R7, we kind of talked about it, they need to find success in skirmishes. Like the second you start moving in towards, hey, we're going to have multiple people all in and around the same area, that's when it gets dangerous. And they kind of found that success in the early points, but they just never really were able to follow it through, with Xayah getting caught in the mid lane as they overextend for the mid lane tower. Then they end up with like Oddie getting caught at times as well. It just ended up kind of falling apart for them as the game went on.
Yeah, and look, for R7, I'm pleasantly surprised, to be perfectly honest. Yes, it's a bittersweet kind of feeling, but did decently well. They obviously had an opportunity to try try and take that one, but didn't come together. But I still feel like there's an awful lot more in this series than maybe meets the eye. Definitely feel like they could maybe take this to a 2-1 if they really get the kind of execution down.
Yeah, I think execution and also just an easier to execute draft. Like, this was always going to be a tough one. You see just how many opportunities they had with the ultimates that were available for PSG Talon. But yeah, a bit sad one. But for R7, they can try and bounce back.
Yeah, they absolutely can. But we're going to bounce it over to the analyst desk, over to the fantastic Trevor to break down that game.
Oh, thank you so much, Oshin. Look at us. There's all five of us. The delightful Dagda and the fantastic Trevor. Oh, it's such a good day. Listen, coming into that game, I was very nervous, very anxious for R7. I think when we saw the draft play out and saw the potential, especially for the team fighting from PSG, I also was hopeful JunJia was going to be a bit more active on that Jarvan. Slightly slow early game. So before we get into that, let's talk about the draft just a little bit. What did you make of it? Were there any big surprises or shocks? Maybe Raz, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me, I like the idea of J4 into Xayah Rakan on PSG side. The criticism that I would levy towards R7 is that they picked Taliyah on 3. Love it, right? You're on red side, picking Taliyah on 3. It's a great flex. You want to maybe hold it for 5. They actually just completely punted it on 4 pick for Viego, which gave the opportunity for PSG to go Neeko, Kennen, and make it incredibly difficult for Viego to even play the game. So,
and to translate for all the European viewers, punting it means you basically just give up on the aggressive move. You just give away all the opportunities there. Translating NFL to English. Nevertheless, okay, GB, talk to me a little bit in terms of the draft role, then maybe moving into the early game. What were your expectations, and did it go to what you were thinking?
I think there was a lot of windows that was actually missed by PSG. I think R7 got exactly what they wanted out of the first few, actually 3 clears of how the jungle pathed out. J4 needs to be a lot more active than Viego does. And while the tracking on PSG at times was on point on Oddie, I don't think that they actually made a lot of it. There was multiple stacked waves on top lane where JunJia could have died. I could have even have seen them go for a level 2 dive on the bot side just to help them out with how the pressure works from a Nautilus Ezreal into a Rakan specifically, where you can shut down the early aggression from that pick. So I think there was a lot of windows that was missed, and that also made the game way slower for PSG than it should have been, but put R7 in a really good spot.
Actually, this is a pretty good example for what feels like the rest of the tournament. The multiple patches that we saw MR nerfs to Renekton, we saw buffs to Kennen.
Freak is out there, and he's super happy. He's like, I nerfed the magic resist on Renekton, and they counterpick with an AP champion.
Oh my god, this is what I wanted!
Let's talk about the early game, talk about the leads. How significant was it? Because I know we were talking about the CS advantages at about 8 minutes. We were hoping, we were praying JunJia was going to go top, maybe look at Bong, but talk to me about the CS advantages. And, you know, were you concerned at any point there that R7 were not going to be able to, you know, bounce back?
Yeah, I was pretty concerned. Just kind of focusing on how critical it was. We talked about Kennen having that advantage. It was a 23 CS advantage at 8 minutes for the Kennen. Azhi was completely controlling that matchup. We saw what was a 7 CS lead for Maple, which is fine. It was pretty minimal, but in general, we just saw, as you mentioned, it was a nice early game overall for R7. We expected a larger deficit, but then I was like, wait a minute, there's a goal lead happening here for PSG. Where is it? Solo lanes. I was like, okay. So the criticism you had a little earlier on, we saw a little bit of it.
But I actually think R7 leading into the first Rift, I thought that they could have cross-mapped and killed Wako because he's usually alone. Instead, what they did is that they sent their TP user down bot to actually stop the side from getting any plays. But then this is where it becomes really messy, and the point you're addressing, Raz, the fight, the way it starts out from PSG is way too sloppy. You said that J4 gets caught in the beginning, but the Kennen still had prio. There's possibility for Neeko to come in. Finally, the Neeko also comes through, but multiple members have already died. So from the solo laners, with the possible lead you could have had, and the setup with a J4, Kennen, and a Neeko, that fight was just played out really bad.
Exactly. PSG, I think, had all the cards at the very beginning. They had the slow push on bot side. They could get Rakan up towards the top side a little bit earlier. But honestly, Rainbow 7, to the point that you had just made, that play of having their bot lane swap mid was a really good adaptation that gives me more hope.
It's a simple thing, but something we don't see too often. It was just something that shut down a strategy we saw PSG use a lot, where they just leave Wako alone.
One of the things I did see, or I did feel throughout many of these skirmishes, a little bit of mechanical misplays, a little bit of questionable decision-making, especially early on in many of those skirmishes. I will chalk that up to first game on stage, first best of worlds, right? But it's not exactly the cleanest opening game from both of these squads. I will say, though, as the game continued to play out, PSG's team fighting composition, the wombo combo, the circles, as Oshin and Dagda were talking about, they really started to take over.
It's funny because it just didn't stop, right? You blow flashes for the J4 Cataclysm. You're like, I think maybe this is oh no, we need to deal with the Kennen ultimate. Okay, maybe we're good. And and then Neeko comes from behind. It felt like there were multiple waves of engages that they had to deal with.
Yeah, we can see the way that it leads up to it in this fight that goes pretty much both ways. A good TP interrupt came through in the top lane, but what you need to pay attention to is not actually who dies, it's who's flashing right here, because this is going to be huge in the Drake fights leading up to it. In the coming fights, Dak already addressed it. R7 comms was a bit hard to play. It becomes even harder when you don't have flashes. In this play specifically, no flash to Taliyah, no flash on Oddie. Xayah does have flash, he still gets caught by it, but that makes it even more difficult, and that's why they start losing. R7 starts overextending when they don't have flash, and with your composition going into the composition of PSG, you cannot be allowed to play like that.
Yeah, and it feels like R7 specifically was cutting corners on how they were playing setups on the siege on mid lane, right? Because you saw the Nautilus that was on the top side of the map expecting that's where the flank was going to be. But yeah, the Neekos was coming through the bot side of the map. What killed me was the fact that the players that did not have flash survived. It was Xayah that had blink and flash that died for it because he didn't have the reaction speed on that one. So like, a lot of props to PSG that had a little bit of deficit after the Rift Herald, but then through their mid game were able to reclaim the game.
Yeah, and you know, like big damage from Azhi as well. The same goes for Xayah in this instance. But I also just think that in general, the games are slow in the early game. What it really comes down to is how you set yourself up for the Drakes, because that's where the big fights will be happening between the two teams. They both had an incredibly high Drake percentage in their own regions as well, so that's where they want to pilot the fights. They need to set themselves up better for this instead than moving forward.
Watching this game, I initially was very frustrated at PSG. I wanted to see more. I wanted JunJia to be active. I was very angry. Now that we've actually run through this post-game, we've talked about it a bit more, they knew they were going to win team fights. They kind of knew they were the better team. Play a little slow. Please. Let's see whether or not those nerves, let's see whether the stage settles.
But if there is one thing, like, I would actually love not to see JunJia on the Jarvan, just something different instead where he's more fast-paced.
We do have to go to a break. We're going to head to a ad break. When we come back, it'll be game 2 of PSG versus R7.
Bring it back, R7.
Rakan die. Nico. Just go. No, I'm going to mid. Okay, no.
Good play. And Oddie are waiting in the wings as well, so we'll just back away.
Oh, interruption. That's going to be a little flash and a cataclysm for JunJia, but I think he's just... Oh, the nice little bit of movement. Now you can see a fight on two fronts. They are getting damage down. Bong still keeping himself alive. Nicely done with the pop blossom, though. And that's a clean enough fight for the side of PSG. They lose one, they get 4, and they can just barrel down the mid. They've got a huge minion wave.